Now, to clone your private repository, push changes from your local repo to your remote repo, install Visual Studio Code, and install Terraform extension, including the installation of AWS CLI. This is what you need to do. So let's begin with cloning your private repository. Now, for you to clone your private repository, right, one of the things you have to do is to come into where you have created the repo, which is on GitHub. So my GitHub repository is Terraform project, and I've created it. So I have this Git now and I have the README. Next thing I want to do is I'll click on what? I'll click on code. When I click on code, it will bring me this drop down, which I'll now see where it says clone. Okay. Now, if I want to clone this, I need to make sure that I'm cloning it from HTTPS. So I'll copy this link. Once I copy the link, I will now open up it. So I have a command prompt that I can open up, and this is it. Now, where am I going to clone this into? I'll clone this to my downloads. So from here, I'll first of all list out, my informations that are in my computer, and one of them is my downloads. And then from here, I'll now go to my downloads. Okay. And once I'm in my downloads, I can now what? Clone. So for me to clone, I have to write in git clone, and then I'll paste in the HTTPS. That is the link. And that should do the trick of what? Cloning to your computer. Okay, so you can see calling into what? Terraform what? Project. Alright, so I have to do some signing, and then once I go through the whole process of signing in, I should be good to go. Alright, so once I go through the process of authenticating and authenticated from the browser, I should have my cloning done and everything completed. Alright, so how do I go about pushing changes from my local repo to my remote? Well, first thing I have to do is I have to pull up this cloned information from my local repo, from my computer, using my Visual Studio Code. So I go to Visual Studio Code, have my Visual Studio Code up, and then I will go to the file. Okay, so if I go to my file, I'll go to open folder. Here I'm going to select the Terraform project that I have cloned, and I'll select it. Alright, so once I select this, I'll choose the author, and I would have my Terraform project with the information right here. Okay, so if I have any changes made here, for example, let's say in the git node, or maybe in the readme file, we have this is a repository for my Terraform project. I can type in here for me to play around. Of course, this is for the project we have in hand, but if I make this change here and I go ahead and save, okay, this needs to be pushed back into my remote repo, and you can see that an identification can come up here. So one thing I can do is I can go to this source control. I can just type in anything like me here, and I'll click on commit. It will ask me if I want to commit this. I'll click on yes, right? So if there's an error, which there's an error here, I can make corrections. And what exactly is the corrections that needs to be made? I need to make sure that I configure my global username and my global email, right? All right. But Once you have this configured according to the video that you have or have been given previously, or pretty much you have access to, right? You go through this process to do what? To commit your code and push it back to your what? To your repo. All right.